Good evening and welcome to City of Pasco Council meeting. The council thanks you for being part of our city government. At meetings, the city council takes formal action on items, holds public hearings, and conducts other business of the city. Agenda packets are available on the City of Pasco's website at www.pasco-wa.gov/agenda. This meeting is being televised live on PSC-TV channel 191 on Spectrum Cable in Pasco and Richland, and is streamed to the city's Facebook page, website, YouTube channel, and GoToWebinar. This and previous council meeting video is available on the city's website. Lastly, the public may submit their comments and or questions by contacting the city manager, city clerk, or by using the Ask Pasco app. And with that, may we get roll call?
Council members Campos,
Present.
Milne,
Present.
Roach,
Present.
Serrano,
Here.
Torres,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Maloney,
Present.
and Mayor Barajas.
Present. Thank you, and would you please rise and for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that, and we move on to item 4, consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by roll call vote as one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If further discussion is desired by council members or the public, the item may be removed from the consent agenda to the regular agenda and considered separately. Item A, approval of meeting minutes. To approve the minutes of City of Pasco Council regular meeting and regular workshop held April 4th and April 11th, 2022. Item B, bills and communications. To approve claims in the total amount of $3,438,405.67. To approve bad debt write-off for utility billing, ambulance, cemetery, general accounts, miscellaneous accounts, and municipal court accounts receivable in the total amount of $181,357.58, and of that amount, authorize 0 to be turned over to collection. With that, can I get a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
There's a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Maloney, seconded by Councilmember Campos. And with that, can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Serrano,
Yes.
Campos,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Milne,
Yes.
Roach,
Yes.
Maloney,
Yes.
and Barajas.
Yes. Thank you for that. And we move on to item 5, proclamations and acknowledgements. We actually do have a proclamation tonight. City Manager?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you. So this evening we have Colin Hastings from the Pasco Chamber of Commerce to accept a proclamation from the mayor on their 110th anniversary of the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Colin, just read some of these whereases before you come up here and receive this. So I'm very proud to read this to you and share this with the community. Pasco Proclamation for the Chamber of Commerce 110th anniversary. Whereas this year marks the 110th anniversary of the Pasco Chamber of Commerce, and whereas the Pasco Chamber of Commerce, established April 15, 1912, serves as a front door for tens of thousands of individuals and businesses, from business to agriculture to education. The Chamber is a major supporter of the greater Pasco area, and whereas the mission of Pasco Chamber of Commerce is to foster a vibrant local business environment and to enhance the quality of life in our region, and whereas the Pasco Chamber of Commerce works with businesses and industry to advance the civic, economic, industrial, professional, and cultural life of greater Pasco area. And whereas the Pasco Chamber of Commerce is supported by the financial and volunteer resources of businesses located and operating in and around the community. And whereas the Pasco Chamber of Commerce works to promote the region's business community through information, resources, and networking opportunities. And whereas the Pasco Chamber of Commerce advocates on behalf of the agriculture community through addressing various issues because of the impact that the ag industry makes on the region. And whereas Pasco Chamber of Commerce advocates on preserving the region's hydropower system for clean, fish-friendly and carbon-free energy and economic development in it provides to the Northwest. And whereas the Chamber of Commerce advocates for local businesses and empowers entrepreneurs while keeping Pasco's rich history and cultural diversity at the forefront. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Blanche Barajas, Mayor of City of Pasco, Washington, recognize the contributions and service to the community for 110 years by Pasco Chamber of Commerce toward improving the community's quality of life and encourage all residents to support local industries within the great community. Do you have some words?
I think there was a whereas for each decade of existence. No, hey, very honored to have this opportunity to receive this on behalf of the Pasco Chamber. Obviously, we've been in the community for a really long time. In my tenure there, which has been a little over 10 years, and you start doing the math, it's almost 10% of the existence of the Pasco Chamber. I guess it goes into age and getting older, but I have learned a few things about the Pasco Chamber and the history that it's had in Pasco, and a couple highlights of those include in its inception, pushing for the completion of the Panama Canal, to pushing for the removal of the tolls on the bridge, the Pasco-Kennewick Bridge at the time, and there's a big celebration. Pasco Chamber was integral in creating the manager council form of government, big advocate for that. So and in addition to many of other things along the way, but I think some of those highlights are worthwhile sharing, and Pasco Chamber is hopeful to continue to do that for another 110 years. But I can't thank the council enough for the honor, and you probably won't see me here in 110 years. Thank you.
We definitely need to work on the photo app. Thank you for that, Colin. With that, we move on to item 6. Visitors other than agenda items. The item is provided to allow citizens the opportunity to bring items to the attention of the City Council or to express an opinion on an issue. Its purpose is not to provide a venue for debate or for the posing of questions with the expectation of an immediate response. Some questions require consideration by council over time and after the deliberative process with input from a number of different sources. Some questions are best directed to staff members who have access to specific information. Citizen comments will normally be limited to 3 minutes, each by the mayor. Those with lengthy messages are invited to summarize their comments and or submit written information for consideration by the council outside of formal meetings. And with that, do we have anyone in the community that would like to share a comment? Go ahead, sir. If you can please state your name and address for records.
My name is Leonardo Morales, and 404 West Pasco. I own Havana Cafe. First thing I gotta say to you, and you welcome to the City Council. Congratulations for being the mayor.
Thank you.
Last year, the City Council approved the change of C2, unanimous. And I did apply for the changes, and I applied for the outside seating. And I was expecting to get something from the city before May 5th, so I can get some of the crowd. And so far, I haven't gotten 0. The city hasn't said anything about Dockside City, or yes or not, or Leo, you need to do this or that. I haven't heard from them. I applied. Another one is applied for the changes on the C2, and I haven't heard anything back from the city. The city hasn't said, hey, Leo, go ahead and do this, or Leo, you need to do this. I haven't heard. So can you please, because I want to talk to you, I mean, because you're the mayor right now. So can you please just ask the city employees one of these days what's going on, and can you please get back to me? The only reason I'm here is because I did one of those Freedom of Information Act. Everybody knows here that my restaurant was closed. So I opened the restaurant on April 1st. So just for the heck of it, I wanted to know what was going on with my restaurant in the last 30 days of between the city and people. So I asked for the emails only having my name, my wife's name, and the restaurant name. I don't want anything else. The city got back to me. I did that on April 7th. My knowledge, my understanding of the law says the city has 5 business days to get back to me. 5. The city got back to me with an email yesterday saying, we need more time. We will get back to you by May 6th with some of the information that you request. Maybe it take longer. My question to you is, how many emails the city of Pasco can have with my name, my wife's name, and my restaurant name, in their hands, it's going to take over 30 business days to get back to me. I'm not asking for any private thing. I'm asking for public records, which I believe I have the right for it. I believe the Washington State, if you Google it, only takes 30 seconds. The Washington State will say the city has 5 business days to get back to you. And even if you Google it, Google will come out and say, hey, any public record between the office or the mayor or whoever, you have the right to see it. The only thing I want is email from Troy, David, and anybody from the council. They have my name, my wife's name, and Havana Cafe. I'm not asking for anything out of the blue. Why is the city of Pasco, or the employees of the city of Pasco, I don't know who is it, taking 30 days to get back to me when the law says clearly it takes 5 business days? So you don't have to answer to me. Everybody in this room knows my email. Everybody in this room knows my phone number. And everybody in this room knows where I am. So will you please get back to me and those 210? And again, welcome to the city of Pasco. Congratulations for being the mayor of Pasco.
Thank you.
Thank
And I'm sure we'll get you a response to that. Anyone else wishes? Go ahead, sir.
My name is Dwight Montgomery, 900 Avery Avenue, Pasco, Washington. First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate the Chamber on all the things that you guys have accomplished. It's been magnificent to watch. The state put in $36.2 million for the Lewis Street overpass. And then people like myself who are developers, those are green lights. Those are opportunities to go work in this community and make it better. Subsequent to that, I purchased roughly 15 acres. It's the first parcel right there off the highway, and looking forward to developing it. Before I say anything else, the Chamber is amazing. I'm proud to say that my family owns Bella's Office Furniture in Kennewick, and Dave Lemek, God rest his soul, came to me years ago and said, hey, can you donate some furniture to this opportunity? I said, sure. And so it's just been fun to watch y'all's progress and get an award tonight and get recognized. As for the reason why I'm speaking, first and foremost, I believe that words matter. And so I've done a little bit of research, not extensive to the degree that I would hope to, but I think that at a minimum, there needs to be clarity on an aquatic center and a water park. And I believe it's a couple years back, when this was brought in front of the entire community, both Pasco, Richland, and Kennewick, it was rejected. We're not going to raise public funds for this purpose. And then subsequent to that, Governor Inslee came in and said not water parks, but aquatic centers can in fact go into one community, which is wonderful. I'm not against water parks, I'm not against aquatic centers. I'm against bad communication. And so as a result of that, I just did a quick Google on the way in. As of October the 25th and 26th, the Tri-City Herald says shining new star water park is coming to the Tri-Cities. It's not true. A water park is not coming to the Tri-Cities by most definitions. An aquatic center is coming. That is a completely different arena. And so those constituents that should be supported in a water park, right? My family for years has gone to Silver Mountain up to Kellogg, Idaho. They've got a beautiful indoor facility. We love it. That's what I think of when I hear the words water park. Those would be very well served. No, I'm not here advocating for my property. I'd love to have it there, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here to advocate for clarity of purpose. And at a minimum, I do a lot of internet marketing. Words matter. How things are framed matters. If you're telling us that you're going to raise our taxes for an aquatic center, that will likely have a different outcome than if you say it's a water park. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wish to speak?
Dave Cortinas, 411 West Clark, with the Latin Business Association. Tonight I thought would be the last place I'd be here at the City Council, but I was encouraged by several people and staff to be here today. First of all, I want to thank Dave Zabel and Mike Gonzalez for the good work that they've done in bringing together the Latin Business Association and the Downtown Pasco Development Association together in a meeting that was held and brokered by the city to work together on the Pasco City Cinco de Mayo. And we agreed to meet. And last Monday, we met downtown at the Mexican restaurant. And after an hour and a half, we came to an agreement. After hugs and kisses and photo ops with the staff and a group of two organizations that have had some differences in the past. It's no secret. And we were pretty proud and happy that this had happened. And that evening we get a phone call that the broker it was dissolved, that it was not going to happen. The next day we met, myself and Gavel-to Felipe, who was the vice president of LBA, and Gabriel Portugal, the president of DPDA, and the interim executive director, Oscar, to work out the logistics on how we would come to an agreement. And we did. We met again for another hour and a half. We worked on the logistics, came to an agreement, and we shook hands. And both times I flipped the bill for it. And that evening we get another email of accusations and from DPDA. And we had to go to work and clear up some of the accusations. And the city has been involved in all throughout these 2 days, where they brokered another meeting right here in this chambers. And we came here, another hour of meeting. Dave Zabel was in a meeting in Vancouver, zoomed in. I don't know how Dave has so much time on this subject of brokering these meetings and being able to help make this thing happen. And I asked him that. I said, I don't know how you spend so much time on this subject. He said, it's important to me. It's important to the city that this happens and that you guys unite and make one big, beautiful Cinco de Mayo. We agree. We have agreed to everything that we've been asked to do by the DPDA. They didn't accept a lot of things that I wanted, but it's not about me. It's about bringing the community together. And that's what it's all about. Even to this weekend, Wednesday night, we get another phone call from Mike and Gonzalez and says, sorry, but it looks like things are not going to happen. And only after, this is where the damage comes. Gavel-to Felipe, owner of Radio La Ley, has been having events in Richland during the same dates that Pasco has their Cinco de Mayo. He has invested money into a new radio station, and he was planning to have a grand opening in Richland. He asked the Latin Business Association to help him out, so we got him his liquor license, we got him his insurance, we got him generators, restrooms, garbage cans, you name it, everything you need for an event. He has deposited, it's $18,000 worth of deposits on his bands, and only to find out that he called Richland and told him, sorry, we brokered an agreement in Pasco, we're gonna move our event to Pasco. They were disappointed that that had happened. And then we get the phone call from Mike saying that we're sorry, but it broke down again, it's not gonna happen. So we worked through the weekend, and I'm sorry I'm taking a little long. We worked through the weekend, and they wanted us to talk to the the promoter, and give you the phone number, I'll call him. I called him up, came to an agreement. He says, talk to them, whatever my bands can play and Gaudenzio Felipe's bands can play, come to an agreement what's fair, let's move forward. This morning, Gaudenzio meets with them. And they said, well, you can come, but you got to pay $10,000 to come. It has just been a roller coaster. I know we just went through Easter, and I see these Easter movies, and I see where the Savior was whipped. Well, that's the way I felt, whipped
Mr.
through
Cortez,
all
I'm
that we
asking
had
you to
done,
wrap up your
all that
comments.
we had done to make sure that we respect Dave Zabel and Mike Gonzalez, all the work that they did to make this happen, and only have the DPDA tear it apart. So what I'm here to ask you is that I know that Mr. Maloney, that's your district, your area, and Nikki Torres, who attends the DPDA meetings, and Dave Milne, who has a business downtown, that you guys intervene and that you guys make sure that this happens. Because Mr. Gaudenzio Felipe is in the rears to lose a lot of money only because of DPDA not keeping their end of the deal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Can I just respond really quickly? I was not aware of those additional meetings because I believe it's only executive for DPTA that were able to attend. So just to clarify.
Thank you for that. Anyone else wish to make any comments? With no further comments, we will move on. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I don't speak English very well. I'm to try to my best. 30 years ago, we started the
I'm
first
sorry to interrupt. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Gaudenzio Felipe. My address is 109 North 9th in Pasco. I'm sorry I don't speak English very well, but I'm to try, okay? 30 years ago, when I'm coming first time to here to Pasco, I'm working in the field. I'm picking asparagus, cherry, apples. That's when we start the first Cinco de Mayo behind Vieras. And this time, I don't work in radio, only coming to working in the field. Later, I found job in the radio station. We started the first radio station in Walla Walla in the 90s. Every year, we make the Cinco de Mayo here in Pasco. But sometimes, they give the only one radio station the sponsor. I'm thinking we need to working together, all the radio station, for all together do Cinco de Mayo in Pasco for everyone. But in the last 6 years, not happened. That's when I to do the Cinco de Mayo in Richland. We have success for a lot of people. Almost 12,000 people. We bring people to Richland. And this time with the COVID, I'm thinking different. We need to working together, almost for the community here in Pasco. I have four kids. They born here. My wife, who we have 30 years they married. That is the city we live in for the 30 years. That's I want to working together. That's when they invite to us for participate for this organization and say, okay, let's go. We change. We cancel everything in Richland for working together here. My surprise is when we make a deal, everyone, my respect for you, my respect for Dave Sable, because he interested for working together. But we give the hand, say, okay, let's go. This is nothing personal. We wanted to working for the community. But later, everything canceled for 3 or 4 times the same way. Today, I'm saying, I don't know what happened. I don't understand because we are not kids. We are adults. I know you have responsibility. You wanting to do something for the community much better. Why? Because this time is too hard for everyone. All the commercial, they know how sales. They know how for pay bills. This is too hard for everyone. So we do something for bring more commercials to Pasco, that's as good for everyone. That's we need to pay everyone the bills, everything, support to all the business. But I don't know, understand why we not working together. Something personal, something the ego for the some persons. This broken the good relation. Only I wanted to stay here because I know they say all coming last weekend. They say to you, you know, everything fixing, let's go to working together. And this day, I don't know what happened this thing. I'm surprised because say, you know, we are not kids, we are adults. We have responsibilities. Only that's my opinion. I'm sorry, I don't speak English very well, but I want to say my opinion. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Thomas Granbois, 202 North 8th Avenue. I just wanted to add a little bit of clarity to all of us, to everybody that aren't aware of this conversation. The packets were sent out a while back for participating in Cinco de Mayo by the DPDA staff, and we didn't know that there was a wish to participate in between LBA and the DPDA until, gosh, I want to say about a week and a half ago. And I can only speak for myself. We put in an incredible amount of time and effort into making everybody work together, putting Gavel-to-gavel's package into the DPDA program. And it's been meeting after meeting, and Mr. Cortines was correct. You know, we've gotten together, spent lots of hours together, and ultimately the issue hasn't been lack of willingness from DPDA to participate with LBA. I think that if we had started when the initial packet went out, that a lot of this could have been nipped in the bud, but this was at the 11th hour, like I said, and it ultimately has come down to the promoter and multiple sponsors that are interested in participating in Cinco de Mayo and their issues and wanting to pull out or not wanting to participate with everybody. So there's been a lot of back and forth as to whether or not their acts would want to perform at the same time as other acts, and a lot of egos that are involved and a lot of history that I'm personally not aware of because it's not my forte, but you just hear through, just through a lot of conversation that there are issues on both sides. And my comment as a single board member was that if we can get in writing from both groups saying, let's work together, we're okay, let's do this, then everything's okay. And we haven't been able to see that, and that's the challenge, that there's a lot of so-and-so said this, so-and-so said that, but there are very few people on the record saying, I want to work with this person or not. And when we've spoken in the past, we're willing to forego some deposits. We talked about that, being willing to forego deposits on some entertainment because they weren't able to perform the same day or change schedules. So I don't think that it's necessarily a DPDA not wanting to participate. I think it's more of this should have been looked after months ago. There should have been a response to the initial outreach that said, hey, let's get this done. So that's that's it just from my standpoint. And I wish nothing more. I know Mr. Cortines and Garencio, man, we've busted trying to get this to happen. And I wish that we could have, and I hope that going forward, we can get together in a timely manner and make sure that everybody's working together instead of just coming in at the very end. So, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing? Go ahead, sir. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to real quick ask staff if they can remind us and the public of what the relationship is between the DPDA and the city of Pasco. So what are our responsibilities and authorities and what are not? Because I know there's a lot of interest in the council stepping up and making a decision here, but I'm not sure that legally we have any capability of doing so. So I'm hoping that staff can help us all make sure we understand in context the questions and that we were just seeing and the comments we were just seeing as it relates to what we as a council can do.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you for the context. I think in that regard, the DPDA is the public development authority of the city, and as such, they actually operate independently. The city council doesn't necessarily have direct control. They're not the supervisors of the DPDA. The DPDA are appointed by the council, but they're an independent body. They're their own standalone governmental agency. That said, they're kind of a economic development arm of the city that operates within a specified area of our downtown. Essentially, I want to say First Street, or Tacoma, I think Tacoma to 14th, and from Clark up to a little bit above Bonneville.
Great. So in terms of providing some resolution to the parties that are coming for us today, we have perhaps influence but no direct authority to make a decision or sign a contract or do anything of the sort. Is that accurate?
Council has influence as the city council, but no direct authority.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Now, I'm going to invite last speaker, if you have something different other than what's been discussed already, if you wish to speak now, please step up to the podium.
Good night. My name is Veronica Ramirez. I have owner for the Dream Fashion store, and my address for my store is 122 North 4th Avenue, right here in Pasco. I say thank you, David Sable and Mike Gonzalez, for help and support for the LBA. So I only speak English, okay? Sorry.
You're doing good. You can continue.
Ok. Y lo único que quiero pedirles de favor que nos apoyen a LBA para poder llevar a cabo el evento que teníamos programado y que ya habíamos hablado, ya nos habíamos sentado para hablar con DPDA y pues es lo único que queremos, que nos apoyen en ese aspecto para que nos respeten el acuerdo que teníamos.
All she said is that she just wants you guys to get involved and help the DPDA to understand that to keep the agreement that we had and that we can work together and move forward.
Thank you.
Gracias. Señora, le voy a interpretar un poquito de lo que dijo el manejador de la ciudad. La ciudad, el concilio en sí no tiene influencia en los contratos que puede hacer la LBA o el Departamento de Desarrollo del DPDA. Nosotros simplemente podemos influenciar, pero no les podemos obligar a tomar alguna decisión. Es lo que dijo el manejador de la ciudad. Okay, gracias. Anyone else wish to make another comment different than what we were just discussing? With no further comment, we will move on to item 7, reports from committees and/or officers. Anyone wish to speak on any of their meetings or committees attended? Councilmember Campos?
Seems like a recurring thing. I've got to update every single time we come back. So Ben Franklin Transit had their monthly meeting. It's a very long one. Mayor Pro Tem Maloney was kind enough to join and listen in, get some context on what was going on as my alternate. That was very valuable, I feel like. We discussed sending the taxes back to the ballot. And at this point in time, we decided to table that motion. That was probably the predominant thing we talked about. We had a lot of people who wished to speak on that particular item. And it looks like it might be tabled for a while until we can either and Mayor Pro Tem, you can add value if you want. I think we're going to look at possibly doing some sort of feasibility study to see if it's even worthwhile. But for right now, it's tabled indefinitely.
If I may,
Go ahead,
I'll
Mayor
add
Pro
on.
Tem Maloney, go
Thank
ahead.
you. If I may, I'll add on. The additional context I'd say is that what I understood was twofold. There was implications based on the transportation package that was just passed by the state. So there's some potential legal language that they were looking for a specific legal interpretation on making sure that there was full agreement as to what that phrase meant and how that would affect potential future funding. I think that was one of the key items, and then the other was trying to understand the strategic implications of what would that cut look like. So understand how that would affect operations prior to making that decision at that stage. Would that be fair to the 2 points that I think were really the hinging on why it was tabled for this time?
Yeah, that's correct. The federal grant money, they're potentially looking at, I think if I remember right, it's $16 million over the next 10 years. And so just looking at the equitability on whether or not the money that we would be saving the taxpayers could potentially cost them more money in the long run on grant money that we'd be missing out on. So I was glad to see the board kind of come together and say, well, let's pause on this and get more information. So.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Maloney. Anyone else attended a committee that wishes to speak? Councilwoman Roach.
Just wanted to announce council members may have already seen this in your inbox, but just for everyone here, that Visit Tri-Cities, our visitor bureau, is hosting what they call a TBEX conference, which is a traveler blog exchange to increase tourism awareness of the Tri-Cities. And so we have a lot of participating businesses that says welcome TBEX, TBEX on their business windows, and many different ways that people can get engaged. But the way that business owners can is by inviting these bloggers to their business to promote what they do.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes, very exciting to have bloggers talk about the Tri-Cities in general and promote your small business and anything and everything that you're doing in the community. Anyone else wish to speak or share any meetings?
I'll just add that Ben Franklin Council of Governments ended up canceling their meeting, so we had no meeting last week.
Thank you for that. All right, and so with no further comment, we will move on to item 8, hearings and council action on ordinances and resolutions relating thereto. Item A, continued appeal hearing findings of act and ordinance approving Duarte rezone APPL 2022-001 and Z 2021-017, and Director White.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. And just very quickly, this rezone petition involves a 1/2 acre site at Ella and Road 28th. The hearing examiner conducted a public hearing on this issue in January and had issued a recommendation of denial. That recommendation was appealed, and Council held a closed record hearing 2 weeks ago. And there was consensus that it should have been approved. And the attached ordinance tonight provides the base, the whereases, and the findings for council to accomplish that approval.
Thank you for that. Do we have any comments from any of our council members regarding this issue? Looks like there's no comments. Can I get a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. Move to adopt ordinance number 4586, rezoning property located near the northeast corner of North 28th Avenue and West Ellis Street from RS12 to R1, and further authorize publication by summary only.
I have a motion and seconded by Councilwoman Torres. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? say nay. And it passes unanimously. With that, we move on to item B on the agenda, single room occupancy, housing moratorium. Director White again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this item was also previously heard by council. On March 7th, a moratorium was established that put a pause, a halt to converting additional hotel units to single-room occupancy housing. One of the provisions of state law is that when a moratorium is established, you must conduct a public hearing within 60 days of its establishment. So there's no action needed by council tonight except to conduct the public hearing, and then staff will memorialize any comments that have been received and provide those most likely in a report in the housing capacity plan that we expect to address this issue in substantially more detail than we have so far.
Thank you for that. Any further comment from our council? Questions? Councilwoman Roach?
Yes, Director White, for the public that is here today, maybe just a very brief overview of single residency occupancy to help them, if somebody would like to make comment on it.
So roughly a year and a half ago, maybe a little more now, that City Council adopted an ordinance that allows properties, hotels in C1 and C3 zoning districts to be converted to permanent housing that would go beyond the transient lodging provisions of state law. So things longer than 30 days in duration. So it involves a conditional use permit, a special permit, and then of course a building permit for whatever physical changes are needed to accomplish that conversion. Pasco has about 300 units that took advantage of that so far. Richland has about 500, and I think Kennewick has a similar number, maybe somewhere between 400 and 500. The moratorium involves a pause to that. So the units that have been permitted already, of course, are vested. They'll be allowed to continue their conversion. But pending the outcome of the analysis in the housing capacity plan, council may, at some point, we have 6 months, so sometime in September, either continue the moratorium, extinguish the moratorium, or extend it for a set amount of time.
Thank you for that. And with that explanation, Mayor Pro Tem Maloney.
Yes, thank you. I just had one question in terms of process here. I know we're conducting a public hearing as required by law, but if members of the public or a development community or something would like to reach out to staff after this, is that still acceptable, or is there a window of time in which we need to conduct this hearing and then quote unquote close the hearing? How does this process work for this particular item?
Well, and Mr. Briggs, jump in, please. My understanding is, Councilman Maloney, is that the hearing is for conduct tonight to receive comments, and then the housing capacity plan also provides another opportunity for people to weigh in at a date different than tonight.
Great, so staff will be receptive to comments that may be received outside of tonight's meeting. So this is not the one and only time you get a chance to weigh in on this. I just want to make sure that was clear to any of the listening public in case they have questions or want to get more educated and provide some feedback to
Yes.
And I would just add to that, Councilmember Maloney, that the public hearing is required within 60 days of the passage of the moratorium, and that allows council to have the moratorium for a 6-month period, at which point you'd have to hold another public hearing and have additional findings to continue the moratorium. Of course, the purpose of that is to study the issues surrounding the moratorium itself.
Thank you. So at this point, should we move forward with the motion and then hold the hearing? My mistake. I was looking at the wrong item. Here we are. Okay, so with that, so with that, we will start a hearing. Mr. Briggs, do you wish to make any statements before? Do we need a statement before we start a hearing?
This this particular, we could do the quasi judicial hearing script, but because this is legislative in nature, I don't think it'd be necessary. We could just move forward. I suppose if a council member wanted to put it on record that they, owned a property that was subject to this moratorium, that would be fine, but certainly not necessary.
Okay. So we'll just move forward with the hearing. And with that, do we have any further comments or questions from anyone in council regarding this item? Looks like there is none. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Anyone in our community? Go ahead, sir.
Hello, Thomas Grandbois, 202 North 8th Avenue. Now I'm not speaking to you as an LBA board member, but as a property owner and resident of Pasco. We've sat through a lot of discussions around SROs here, and I think it'd be really valuable to the community to understand what's happening on the development side. I know we've heard a lot of concerns about, lack of units for hotels and availability, and also a lack of movement in terms of the local SROs being completed. So I don't know if there has been outreach to the actual developers who are doing this, that are actively working in the downtown or in Pasco, but I think it'd be really valuable to have somebody up here in the community to explain why it's taking so long, what their plans are, what the costs are, just so we can all be better educated. Because if I, as somebody who's here every single Monday, doesn't know that, I can't imagine what it's like being a person who lives in front of one of these units that are being converted and not understanding. So I think that'd be really, really valuable. And if they're choosing not to show up, then that's obvious up to them. But and of course you can't make them show up either. But I think it'd be really valuable to all of us, not just you when you're making decisions, but also to educate the community so we can better reach out to those that don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. And second call, does anyone else wish to speak on this issue? Third and final call, does anyone wish to speak on this issue? With no further comment, I am going to close this public hearing now and will ask for a motion from council on this item.
So I think, Mayor, I don't think we have a motion here tonight, but I would
That's
ask,
true.
as a follow-up to the public comment there, Director White, when we were setting up this hearing and setting up the notifications, did we hear from any of the companies that are converting hotels to SROs across the Tri-Cities? Did we reach out to any of them?
The ones that are permitted now in converting are, as I mentioned, vested, and they actually have permits for doing the physical conversion, the building permits. The one that has not converted apparently has sold the facility to a party that wants to continue to maintain it as a motel. So that we had 3 applications, 2 are vested and actively permitted. The third has sold and is not proceeding.
Okay, great. So we've not received any feedback at this time. So will we be reaching out to them as part of the next step in the process of the housing capacity plan to understand what this would look like under potential further conversions in the future and the implications of the current conversions?
Sure, we can do that, certainly.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council? Okay, so with that, how do we proceed again after this?
I believe, Madam Mayor, it's just closure of the public hearing, which you've done, so.
So and with that, I guess if anyone else has any questions regarding this issue, I would say to direct your questions to staff, to Director White. Again, this is a sensitive issue, and if you've not heard about this and wish to contribute or wish to get more information, please direct your questions to our staff. And with that, we move on to item 9, ordinances and resolutions not relating to hearings, and item A, ordinance amending Pasco Municipal Code related to Corner lot fencing, Director White.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and this item, as all the previous two, has been discussed by council at a workshop in March on the 14th. Pasco's existing fence regulations regulate the corner lot fencing height with a provision that makes the setback for the street side flanking yard dependent on the building location on the lot beside it. That's given rise to a number of problems throughout the community. Excuse me, the Planning Commission devoted a considerable amount of time and resources to this effort through 2021 and has forwarded a recommendation of approval for the ordinance contained in your packets tonight. The proposed changes involve establishing a very predictable 15-foot street side yard setback for the 6-foot fencing. And generally speaking, it's much more lenient than our existing code and prevents some of the extreme setbacks that have been caused by in the large lot zoning districts. As you can probably imagine, a number of houses are set back considerably from the street, which gives rise to problems. So again, the Planning Commission has forwarded a recommendation of approval to council for this ordinance.
Thank you for that. Now, we do have some individuals in our chambers tonight that may have some questions regarding this. Before we pass a motion, does anyone in the chambers tonight wish to speak on this? Go ahead, ma'am. If you can please state your name and your address for the record.
Hello, my name is Ashley Adkins. I live at 5913 West Ruby Street. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. There's a lot more people here tonight than I was expecting, so I'm a little shaky. So I wrote a letter for tonight. So I hope you were all able to review our email that we sent out to all the board members. Were any of you able to go by our lots? Mr. Melny? Okay. There's been some confusion on exactly what the issue is, asking for our 6-foot fence on our property lines. It's not the setbacks or the viewing triangle. However, if I can paint you a picture, imagine a 2-acre lot next to a neighbor with a smaller but sizable 1-acre lot. Why would there be an issue getting a fence? However, the position of the 2nd-acre lot decides the height of the 1st-acre's lot. That's the issue that's coming up. I have multiple emails from the city of Richland and the city of Kennewick, and they have nothing written in their code to dictate the property behind them to have an issue with how their fence is set up. They mentioned that in their codes that they would need it to be more simplified, and they're overly complicated. Our question is, why is it written in the codes that the resident behind the house decides where our height of our fence is? Where did this come from, since no other city in the Tri-Cities has this in their code? The only answer we've received thus far, and that you've received thus far, is that that's always been there. If that's the case, why is it so hard to remove this portion of the city code to reflect what all the other cities have in place? As you know, we are in a growing area spreading out further and further across the counties. And just into the early 2000s, the city took over many areas of District 5, which were mostly farm areas. When there is a change in growth, you assume that situations like ours, that things come up along the way, because everyone does not live on a 7,000 square foot lot where you can pass the salt to your neighbor through the window. All we're asking is the city to adapt and change the code that is in place to reflect larger lots or a separate code to implement for larger lots. Not, the one that is in place right now puts us all in the same box for the smaller lots. And that's all we're asking. Anything to add?
Thank you for your comments.
Hey, could I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Hey, Mrs. Atkins, can you, is your lot actually 2 acres or is it,
Our neighbor behind us is.
what about your acre or where your lot?
It's a little over than half an acre.
little over half an acre?
Mhm.
Okay. I know I've had the same, basically the same thing that even though I'm in agreement with, you know, all the districts, most of them are smaller lots, 7,000. And again, where the houses are really close, but what's frustrating for me is sometimes everything doesn't work. One area doesn't work for every area. And that's why I've just said in District 5, a majority of the homes, since they were county, now they're city. Why can't we have like an amendment that if you have over half an acre, your lot, your fence can be towards, you know, you have the 6-foot fence and not be back, because the problem with the Atkins property is also if they were to move it back, it's on their drain fields for their septic tank, which then causes another problem. So I'm just saying if the property is of a certain size, like at more than a half acre, I feel it should actually be up to the road as long as, you know, on the corners, obviously you can see around them. And a majority of these areas, actually it is like that. But again, it's because the house is turned a different way. And some of them, if they didn't get approval from the city, which we've already gone over, if the people didn't get a permit and just put up the fence, it actually stands. It's the people that actually are trying to do it right. And so that's what I'm saying. I'm in agreement with how our ordinance is, but I'm asking for like a variance if you have a property that's over half an acre, that you get your fence up to a 6-foot fence up to the property line, because then it just makes the whole development look so much better. And in this case, you'll see basically 3/4 of the development, they're all at 6 feet, except for her property is not. Now it's at 3.5. So I don't know how the other council members feel, but I'm very passionate about this, and it would be great if I could get a couple of the council members to decide with me. But I'm just saying it's very important, just living in this district, that it's just a little bit different than the other districts, and that's what I'm asking for, any kind of variance or just for acres that are half acre or more, and there is a few. So that's what I'm promoting tonight, and I would ask for any support that I can get. So thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Melny and Mr. Zabel, for all your advice.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? If you could please state your name and address for the record.
Miguel Cerda. I live 5601 West Ruby Street. Ashley is my neighbor on the opposite side of me. So we're in the same boat. I've talked to David before this. Our septic tanks you want us to build 15 feet in. It runs into all of our systems. So, I mean, it's nearly impossible. For us, it caused like a safety concern because we've had plenty of multiple cars just park on the side of the road. There's no street lights out there. I don't feel safe with my kids running out there. The fence is just a little bit higher than this table right here. And I got a 3-year-old and 8-year-old, so I have cameras out there, but if I were to go inside of the kitchen, it doesn't stop anybody from just walking right over my fence. And in the future, we want to build a pool, but then you're going to want me to build another fence inside the fence because I had to have a 6-foot fence around the pool. So, I mean, that was a good point that you brought up. I do have, it's 0.58 of an acre, so it's over half an acre. I do like what you proposed, and I mean, I fall in that criteria. They're not small lots, and I mean, it just looks ridiculous. There's always people parking on the side at night. There's no lights. Cars burn out there all the time. I have pictures of that. I didn't present it, but in multiple other meetings, that was part of the pictures. And just want to you guys hear us out. If you guys want to go look at the properties, I mean, I'll take a day off. You guys go look at it. It does look kind of ridiculous that we have, 3-foot fence. It's up to our waistline. You guys can see it clearly. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wish to speak on this issue?
Yeah, I just want to thank Dave for your homework and coming across with that information. We too are in the process of purchasing a corner lot. And our developer said, and it's an acre, our developer said you better hold off because there's some changes on fencing. And the fencing that we like and we would like to have, our neighbor who we're looking to purchase from agrees with our fencing, but our developer isn't too happy about it. So we, I don't know how many of you council members have looked at all these fencing regulations and all these different types of fences and sizes, and there's just so many confusing ones. I didn't realize it until I was looking into buying another corner lot. The lot we're in now, it is the fences were already up, so we didn't have any issues on that. But we do have issues on coming into this new lot and the new development that we're looking to go into. It doesn't make sense that the city of Pasco continues to having ordinances that are just way out in center field compared to the Tri-Cities. I've been involved in so many studies and looking into, you name it, all these ordinances, C1, C2, C3, C4. And this one here is just doesn't make any sense. And voting in favor of making a change on something that is so small that causes problems for people to live comfortably. And I would request that you guys support Dave Bilney in this suggestion and vote it down.
Thank you for those comments. Anyone else wish to speak on these issues? Councilman Serrano.
Yeah, I think just for clarity, Councilman Milne, are you asking us to shelf this issue? Are you asking for modified? Are you asking to adopt it with some type of requirement that the Planning Commission then go back and amend it? I guess that's all I'm looking for is clarity. I think, to the extent that you're not happy with the present ordinance, the best way to go would be to, ask us to shelf it for now with direction to either staff or the commission.
I mean, when I looked this over, I mean, majority of the city, it makes sense. Obviously a lot of lots, smaller lots, you don't want the fence right out there. A lot of these neighborhoods, the houses are stacked right up on top of each other. I mean, that's just the way it is. So I'm fine with that. I'm just saying if the property owner has more than half an acre or more, that their property in the city of Pasco would be able to have a 6-foot fence to the property line, as long as the person is turning, the fences are angled on both directions, so that people could see around the fence. I mean, it's actually, there's a lot of, if the developer puts the fence up, it actually seems to be that way. It's just that when the developer doesn't put up the fence, then it seems to be a problem. So that's why I'm asking if we could do an amendment so we can move on with this. I know there's been a lot of effort in this already. I'm just asking for, on the corner lots that are half an acre or more, if we could add that in, that they are the ones that would get a 6-foot fence to their property, as long as they're meeting with being able to turn as far as right away you can see around the fence. That's what I'm asking for.
Thank you for your comments. Any further comment? Councilman Campos.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to convolute this anymore, but I think I'm probably going to with my comments, just right along the lines with David's comments. We've been talking about this a lot. I'm a technical writer by day, and oftentimes less is more, right? Vague but concise. And there is a lot here. And I think to Dave's point, maybe 0.5 acres is maybe not the right call. Maybe some flexibility in terms of allowing special permit process to happen for certain applicants, because then that covers anybody who applies for the special permit. Although there's some extra circumstances there, so there might be something to think about. I think you're on the right track. I'd be in favor of supporting you on that, but I just want to look at maybe adding more vagueness to cover a lot of people in Pasco that may face this issue in the future, not just to people in your rural to now city district. So something to think about.
Thank you for your comments. And with that, we do have a motion.
I don't think we have a motion yet, do we?
Well, do you wish to?
I was going to make comments before
Sure, go
I was
ahead.
ready to make a motion.
Maloney.
That's right. Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate the concern. Director White, I mean, this has been before the Planning Commission 6 times. And my understanding is that this must have come up and must have been specifically discussed. Not just what the purpose of the ordinance is, and what the purpose of the regulation is, but also these specific issues. I watched 1 or 2 of the Planning Commission meetings. Apparently don't have enough on my plate. But so I actually listened to the conversation, the debate, and presentations by community members to the Planning Commission. Is there any way, perhaps, Director White, you could summarize a little bit about what their deliberations were and why they chose to go this direction? I know it's asking a lot, and I apologize for putting you on the spot like this, but ultimately, if it's been in front of them 6 times, I've read the materials, I've watched some of the meetings. It is convoluted. There's a lot to this one. Is there any way you can help us summarize this information? And if I can't understand better what the Planning Commission was thinking as they reasoned through this, I would ask for this to be delayed, if nothing else, while we get more information from the Planning Commission and through those records, so maybe we can have a better document understanding why did we do this and not something else.
Councilman Maloney, the record, of course, associated with this report has quite a bit of information on the Planning Commission's reasoning through the minutes. However, what Ms. Atkinson suggested at the podium was removal of the contingency that makes the location of a neighboring lot home appropriate for determining the setback for a fence, which is exactly what this does. The Planning Commission did not think that that was a fair proposition, and why it got here, why, I have no idea. Apparently, things get written into code generally as a result of a complaint or a group of complaints that, who knows. So the Planning Commission, and they had a number of starts at going different routes that were all rejected because of either safety concerns or visibility concerns related to the neighbor's, not home, but the neighbor's driveway. And again, the record contains a number of photographs that illustrate that very, very well, I think. The Planning Commission did seek to cook this down into its simplest form, which is why they came up with the standard street side yard of 15 feet, which provided the vision clearance triangle at intersections and provided enough of a cushion for driveways, given a 20 to 25 foot setback. That's pretty much the standard in all residential zoning districts. I hope that helps.
You have further comment?
Yeah, so I was going to say that when I've looked at Kennewick's as a reference point to understand how they're approaching the same issue, and this is not unique to Pasco. So for, I understand that some of the public comment was suggesting that, this is a Pasco problem. In general, Kennewick certainly has site triangles, they have setbacks, they have distance height requirements based on, proximity to, driveways and other areas. So it's not, we're not totally out to lunch here as though we're standing on our own, the only ones concerned about visibility when it comes to parking, driveways and parking and corners. So, honestly, when I look at Kennewick's, it actually looks more convoluted than ours, which I think is not a compliment for them as they're looking through their stuff. Anyways, I think there is quite a bit to consider, but the simple fact that the Planning Commission's heard this again and again and again. We've heard this, we've talked about this. I'm as long as what my focus is on the safety of drivers. So if someone's backing out of a driveway, they need to be able to see the traffic around them, and the traffic needs to be able to see them. I don't really care how we get there. That's my understanding. The entire purpose of ordinance, I don't care at all about someone's fence, as long as people aren't going to get into accidents or pedestrians and children aren't going to get run over because we have 6-foot fence blocking the ability for people to see it. So if there's another way for us to get there, I'm supportive of going a different direction, scrapping everything that we have and starting over. I don't care, but I'm very interested in making sure that we still have that requirement. So if regardless of what district, there's going to be children walking around. And if there's children that can get hit by a car because we have fences up all the way along the sidewalks, well, that's a dangerous thing. So if we can make sure that we don't have that happen, I couldn't really care less what form or fashion it takes. So, and so if we have a good proposal as to how to change our code to make that work, I'd be happy to suggest that we remove this from the agenda for now until we can explore some of that a little better and push this down. there's no need for us to make a decision today, I don't think. And so I'd rather do it right than do it
We do
twice. So
sorry
that's
to
all I have.
interrupt.
Thank you.
We do have comment from Councilman Campos and then Councilman Serrano.
Just real quick, I want to thank Councilwoman Roach for pointing this out. I overlooked this on page 5. There's an exception. Exceptions to design standards. Did you clarify that?
Yeah, that's to design standards. That's not the fences, which comes right underneath that. Because I was looking at that too. So we do have an exception process for the design standards in 25, 165, 100, sub 1, or sub 2. But when you drop down to 25, 180.050, which is design standards for fence, walls, and hedges, as far as I can tell, I'm seeing no other exceptions or exemptions or other processes that would allow these concerns to be brought before, well, not brought before council, hopefully, brought before council. So maybe what our solution is to Councilman Milne, Maloney, and Campos, Roach, pretty much everyone's points here is there's some leeway that may be needed insofar as it protects safety. I mean, to Councilman Maloney's point, that is the most critical part of this. As long as it's safe, exceptions, I guess is the term, sometimes exemptions. This time it's an exception to the design standard. Maybe there's something we can utilize from above, bring it down to an exception for 25, 180.050. Pop in a sub, whatever this will be, sub 6, that provides for an exception process. I don't know how onerous or burdensome that process would need to be, because looking at the other exception, it points back to a section of the code. Whether or not these exceptions for fencing can fit squarely within that code, I don't know. Haven't done the homework. But I think that potentially we can shelf it for 1 to 2 weeks, have the planning, probably not the commission, but our staff look at it. Is there a way to properly place an exception in 25 180.050? And if there is such an exception that maintains safety and property rights, I think we split the baby. Everyone's happy. Well, that's probably the worst thing to say when we're talking about kids in traffic.
I'm for if we need to shelve it to give more time. I would ask that I'm going to be gone this week, but next week I would love to come out with 2 other councilmen and just go over the property of the 2 individuals that spoke, and you could actually see the issues that they're coming with. It's difficult looking on a picture versus actually going out there. And since everybody lives in different districts, I would just love to actually, if you saw it for your own eyes and actually walk the property, you would understand a little bit better what we're actually talking about. And I'm definitely willing to take off any morning, evening, whatever, just to show you. And I'm sure they would be welcome. I'll call in any day you want. Yeah. So
call me. We'll do this in lieu of date night with our wives.
Shelve this, please do. But I would love to come out there and meet with them.
Yeah.
And kind of give you better understanding. It's difficult to go, there's so much information, but you could actually see these bigger lots do cause a little bit different situations than what we have for the rest of the city. And that's all I'm trying to get a point. I do agree. Overall, I think the thing makes perfect sense. Just for certain lots, I don't think it does, just because they're so big. And again, if you're going to put up a pool or a playground in the back of your yard, you don't want a 3.5-foot fence when people are driving by and looking at your kids playing and you're in the house thinking everything's safe. You would want a 6-foot fence. So hopefully, again, as you said, you can meet anytime, and I'm willing to pretty much anytime as well. Yeah. But as long as it's not this week.
Let's do it.
I just want to add a couple things.
Justice, if you could step to the podium and give me just a second. We do have comment from our.
Just a quick comment about visiting the site. That's fine as long as we're not forming a quorum and discussing it outside council meeting.
Go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to add to Dave, our lots, mine is 196 feet. My property line is all the way down to the fence line. And to add to your safety, I don't think it would be an issue. I mean, all the way down 56, all the way up to, I believe, Burden. There's lines of houses that have 6-foot fences all the way down, just not our lot. So to say safety, if we don't have any records of kids getting hit or any of that stuff, I mean, it's 25 miles per hour right there the whole way up. I don't think it's going to be an issue for us either.
Thank you for your comments.
Thanks.
With that, Is there a motion you wish to make, or what's the next step?
I was going to ask some advice from the from our legal staff. Do I need to do anything other than simply not make a motion and move on? Because if there's no one makes a motion, we can just continue on the agenda, or do we need to amend the agenda in some fashion?
I think just not making a motion at this point would be sufficient, and then we can bring it back.
Great. Then I will proceed to not make a motion.
Do we want to direct staff to do something specific, like look at that exception? Do we have to make? Do you need a motion for that, Dave or Mr. Briggs?
I'm thinking
Mr.
from
White?
I'm thinking from
Does anyone need a motion to?
Yeah, from the discussion, I think from the discussion at council, we kind of know, all seem to be in agreement, and we kind of know generally what you might be interested in.
That's fine. I just know sometimes when we tweak the process in the middle, you've asked for a motion to really clarify and hone down. But if you've got the scope, we're good.
Thank you, Dave. So with that, we move on to item B, 9B, resolution supporting Pasco Public Facilities District ballot proposition. Proposition 1, the Pasco Public Facilities District sales and use tax for aquatics facility and competition pool. The Pasco Public Facilities District Board of Directors adopted resolution number 2022-02 concerning construction and operation of an aquatics facility and competition pool. This proposition would authorize the district to impose a sales and use tax increase of 0.2% in accordance with RCW 82.14.048 for the purpose of paying the costs associated with financing, refinancing, design, acquisition, construction, equipment, equipping, operating, maintaining, remodeling, repairing, and re-equipping of an indoor-outdoor aquatic center and competition pool. Director Ratkai.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Good evening. As stated through the proposition title, the Pasco Public Facilities District is looking to seek a 0.2% sales and use tax to be imposed through an election and a ballot next week on April 26th. At the request of 3 council members, staff has drafted a a resolution of support for the council to discuss and deliberate this evening. And I will turn it back over to council.
Thank you. And with that, Mayor Pro Tem Maloney, before that, City Manager Dave.
Well, just a couple more comments I'd like to add. So the resolution as proposed would be in support of the ballot measure, and council is allowed to do that under state statute, specifically RCW 4217A.555, provided they do so at a public meeting. So as council is aware, we have a ballot measure on the 26th. This gives a little bit of time for the public to understand how the council views the ballot measure. I had been asked by 3 council members to put this on the agenda ultimately, and so we presented this tonight for council's consideration.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Maloney.
Great, thank you, Mr. Ratkai and Mr. Zabel. And as many of you may know, I've been I was actually originally appointed to the my first civic volunteerism in the city of Pasco was being appointed to the Pasco Public Facility District Board back in, I think it was 2013. So I've got about a decade into this overall process. So I just want to raise bring up a couple of points as we were considering this. And one of the items is that while the Tri-Cities as a whole did in fact reject this measure when it was a Tri-Cities-wide regional PFD effort, City of Pasco voted nearly 60% in favor of it. So nearly a supermajority of Pasco voters said that they thought that this would be the right project for them and were willing to vote to increase their own sales tax in support of this. So we've certainly seen that the City of Pasco and the voters in Pasco have viewed this measure or a similar measure very favorably. I would also mention that this is the single most discussed item that happens when I'm talking to my voters and residents in my district. My district is pretty young. There's a lot of families, and everyone's saying, what is there more that we can do for kids? So I hear that time and again as I talk to my residents. And I do want to address an earlier comment about, why do we say aquatic facility? I'll be honest, I have no idea. With this much time into it, you think I'd know this, but the Pasco Public Facility District is a separate legal entity from the city of Pasco, so we as a council didn't make that decision. That was decided by the Pasco Public Facility District Board separately some time ago, and perhaps our legal team can describe why that is. But I would say that the designs, the preliminary and conceptual designs look an awful lot like a water park with a phase 2 competition pool, and perhaps that is some of it to make sure it's encompassing both a competition portion as well as a recreation portion. I can't promise you that's where the language came from, but that's certainly some of the history there. So anyways, I believe that the voters in Pasco have made clear their position that they think this is important and that they think that this is worth investing their dollars in the sales tax, as they have done so at the ballot before. And so I'm certainly in support of this effort. The voters will have their voice, and that's important. I think that we as a council, we've had as a long-standing goal to support moving forward on this and bring this to ballot. I believe we've had this on our goals for, oh gosh, well, since before we joined council. So this has been, I think we've had a 100% turnover since this was originally set as a goal of the city council. So again, this has been a long-standing effort, a lot of work, and a lot of people in the city of Pasco simply ask the question, why not us? Why don't we have the nice things in the Tri-Cities? Why do we have to go somewhere else to get the things we want? And this is our opportunity as a city to say, yes, us. So.
Councilmember Maloney, thank you. I would, just to clarify on that, yes, the Pasco Public Facility District is it's a separate legal entity similar to the DPDA. So it's created for a public purpose by the city, but has its own separate board. And as far as the statement that was given on the ballot proposition, that was a neutral statement that was prepared by the Pasco Public Facilities District for information purposes for the voters. And so under the RCW that Mr. Zabel pointed out with regards to the ability of council to pass a resolution in support of this ballot proposition, there's also the caveat there that members of the public can speak for or against at tonight's meeting. So the public is afforded an opportunity to speak with regard to their position on this. And I would just say that I did read the ballot proposition, being a Pasco voter. I don't know where the water park statement came from. It's probably just something that the news might have come up with. I didn't see that in the ballot proposition itself, and probably just something that the news took and ran with because it resonates more with the viewers, but I'm speculating on that.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any comments from our council members regarding this topic? We have Councilman Serrano first, Councilman Campos next, and Councilman Milne after.
Thank you. Before we make a motion to vote on this, I'm going to say that I oppose this because I don't think this is the right project at the right cost. So if we're going to make a motion, I ask that we modify this resolution, especially the now therefore, the city of Pasco collectively, the city council of the city of Pasco collectively. I appreciate it if we change that to a majority insofar as we pass it by majority. If this fails, then that's that. And where it talks about the city council, I appreciate just adding a majority of. But in my position, I've always been of the position that this should be a private, and I know that that's failed. I've reached out to companies, and I'm certain Councilman Maloney has too. I do know that we had a gentleman speak, and I'm hoping he'll speak again. I tripped into him because he's doing work for my new office. He happens to own acreage on the east side of Pasco that I think would be phenomenal to develop down there. Again, he already told us his address, but I'm not going to put words in his mouth. I'm hoping that he'll speak on that, and I don't want to bind anyone into any property use. But the bottom line is, I don't think this is the right project at the right cost, and so I am opposed to this resolution. So I asked that if we're going to advance the resolution, we make a modification of language.
Councilman Campos?
Yeah, just, again, I hit Google pretty hard, Dwight. I can't access the article from Tri-City Herald, but it actually calls it the Water Park and Aquatic Center in the same article. And so there's some confusion there. But ultimately, looking at the proposed development and the intended use of it, I'd be in support of it. Again, like Mayor Pro Tem Maloney has mentioned, throughout all of the Tri-Cities, not just people in Pasco, but, a lot of young people want to see something like this in the Tri-Cities. And, we've afforded private developers the entirety of the history of Pasco to develop, and they haven't. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Milne?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I know when I saw the concept years ago as far as what the aquatic center would be, I was like really impressed. I know what we have now obviously is what Pasco could afford, so it's a lot smaller unit. So with that, I've been a little bit disappointed, but I understand, we can only afford so much considering where we're at. But my opposition to this is we just raised the sales tax from 8.6 to 8.7 to obviously help with the mental health, and I understand that. But I'm just saying you jump it up by 2, now we're 8.9, and businesses are going to be the one that are suffer. If you're going to buy a big screen TV or furniture, and there's a lot of furniture stores in downtown Pasco, that adds up real quick when you're talking, $5,000 in furniture. Obviously, I own a tool store, so I have a vested interest in this as well. But I'm just saying it does hurt when you're competing against people from Pasco or Kennewick and Richland, and they don't jump their tax up. If everybody had jumped up 0.2% or to 8.9, was what I meant to say, I'd be hey, everybody's the same, but we're not the same if we jump ours up and the other two cities don't. And so then this is not the perfect time to be raising taxes, but I understand if the voters want this, the voters will get it. I'm just saying, as a business owner, it's very frustrating to see taxes go up when everything is going up. I mean, literally every day I get notices of this is going up, this is going up, this is going up, and how we're jumping up the taxes as well. And because sales tax affects everybody across the board, the rich, the poor, it affects everybody. So that's my biggest opposition is we're raising taxes when a lot of people are struggling. And it just affects everybody. And I do love the concept, and I do think we do need things for people, but I just don't feel at this moment it's the right time. I'm agreeing with Mr. Serrano, but I guess if the voters want it, we'll give it to them, but I would be in opposition as well.
Thank you for your comments. Any further comments from any of our council members?
Quick question about the ballot, and just asking out loud for the public. Is this ballot passing a simple majority or super majority?
It's a simple majority.
Okay. So that means 50% or more.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah. No, I'm okay.
No further comment? Does anyone wish to make a comment? Go ahead, sir.
Dwight Montgomery, 900 Avery Avenue, Pasco, Washington. I just wanted to follow up. I appreciate the lively debate. I think it honors the process, which is why we're all here. Pro Tem Mayor, anyone who puts 10 years into something, I applaud that tenacity. It's what the city needs. However, anything that has a predicate that is based upon confusion is wrong. It's fundamentally wrong. So therefore, as a writer, words matter. And so I would ask the council to consider pushing this out for 60 days. Let's make sure the public, because you want to have some really angry public, I've had $4,000 mistakes. I can't imagine a $40 million mistake. That can stop right here, where we're not wrongfully selling one thing when it's actually another. The community thinks water park. Google it. You don't even have to Google it. Just think about it. A water park elicits certain feelings. My kids going down a gazillion slides. That's not what's being proposed. That is not what's being built. It is there are elements to that, and I recognize that fact. But that is, compare this plan to any of the other water parks within 300 miles of here. They don't compare. And so you're gonna have a public that's gonna go, wow, we just spent $40 million on this. That's wonderful. We have a lot of competitive swimmers. And if that really moves the needle, that's wonderful. But I don't think that that's what the public is believing that they're buying. So at a minimum, let's do a marketing campaign. If the numbers are in fact 60%, well, by all means, it has merit. Vote for it, vote it in, spend the money, raise the tax, even in a challenging time. It gives people things to do. It gives people hope, having something fun to do. But I don't think a glorified swimming pool is that. I think a water park is that. And I think that's where the disconnect is. And that's why I would ask anyone on this council to at least push it back so that that marketing effort can make clear that the public knows what they're buying. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mayor Pro Tem Maloney.
Yeah, I'll just address each of those points. So it does have slides. The concept is a recreational facility to start with, and then longer term a competition pool, maybe a decade out. So that's I'm not sure I understand what confusion you think there might be, but I'm really not interested in having a debate, right?
I'm sorry.
We can only have so much conversation here, I think, before we got to wrap up for the evening.
Okay.
But you know, we're talking about a $40 to $50 million recreational park is the very first aspect that's being built, or at least proposed being built by the Pasco PFD. So I'm not sure what the misnomer is, but that is a water park where multiple slides, outdoor, indoor recreational facility year round as portion of it, wave generator, that sort of things have been the facilities and amenities. And then this is in your ballot box right now. So the vote will be cast by next Tuesday. There is no pushing back by this council. We can choose not to pass a resolution, but it's in the ballot. That's already gone through. That's not our decision as a council. That's the Pasco Public Facilities District has chosen to move forward with this. And so if you live in Pasco and the city limits, you should have your ballot. If you don't have your ballot, I would recommend that you contact the county auditor's office to make sure you get a ballot and have an opportunity to have your voice heard, regardless. So I'm not sure the points there were really matched with what the Pasco PFD has gone through. And if someone would like to, and if you'd like to go to the Pasco Public Facility District Board website on the City of Pasco website, there's a portion for them, and it has a link to all the original studies, the feasibility. It has pictures, it has descriptions, it has a market analysis as to what it looks like. It has the return on investment in terms of what the sales tax would bring in. It talks about the fees. It talks about all the meetings that the PFD has had. There is an absolute wealth of hundreds and thousands of hours that are out there. I'm a little concerned to hear that there's perhaps the members of the public that didn't understand what was out there versus perhaps what is in a one sentence ballot title. So I would suggest that anyone that wants to go get more information, regardless of our decision tonight, take a look at the city website and understand what that information looks like and gets informed on what this vote is actually for.
Thank you. We have more comment from Councilman Campos.
Yeah, again, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll make this real brief. I think for those of you in the audience who aren't sure or understand what a resolution is, all the resolution is much like one we did just a few months back with Councilman Serrano. It's just to show unity from a council standpoint in support of. So we're not actually taking any action or directing anything to happen. We just want to show our constituents, people out there in the audience, which again goes back to Councilman Serrano's effort to maybe modify the language. He's not in favor of supporting this, and so that language in there then will allow it to show that we have either some sort of majority, but not 100% unity across the board. So for those of you, again, just for information's sake, we're not looking to do anything other than just show some unity in support of the ballot. So hopefully we can get a little steam. That's all.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any further comments from our council? Any comments from our community? Go ahead, sir.
You can argue over this one too. I have to say, shame on you 3 council members that asked Dave Zabel to put this on the agenda today. The ballots are out. You're right, Mr. Maloney. The ballots are out. I have 3 of them sitting on my desk. And you're not going to convince me by voting to pass a resolution that $44 million is being asked to spend on an aquatic center. That is outrageous amount of money. We just went past two of the toughest years for our business owners to be able to even make it, not even with the help of the COVID funds that were given to the business owners, helped them hardly at all, because there was 177 denied that didn't get any money. And we still have funds available that can still be given out to these businesses that are still hurting. We have already asked for an increase of taxes. Now we're going to ask for more? I'm not convinced that we have to spend $44 million, not $40 million, $44 million to collect, to help build an aquatic center. Yeah, we voted for it 10 years ago, but we didn't have a COVID, and we didn't go through what we had before that vote. I just wrote a column in my newspaper, and I said, you want to save money? Vote no. You want to pay more taxes? Vote yes. We've received 71, as of today, 71 emails back. And 71 of those people that have emailed us, 43 have said they don't want to spend more money. And that was the opposite of what we'd said years back. Everybody in Pasco wanted it. And so by you guys voting something in favor of a resolution tonight, you're using your influence while the ballots are out there. It's a campaign issue that we're doing here. I mean, you want the people to say, hey, yeah, we were in favor of it. You guys, look at us. We were the ones that asked to put it on the ballot, and we voted in favor of passing the resolution. And you guys have an influence. Maybe you don't have direct hands-on every voter, but you have an influence. And by you using your speech tonight, Mr. Maloney, and trying to get people to go out and get your ballot and push this vote through, it's not the right time to do influencing while the ballots are in their hands. It isn't. It's just not the right time. I think we should wait 60 days and then say, hey, look, you people voted yes or no, up or down, and then come out and say, hey, this is where we thought you guys needed to be. But you haven't convinced me that we need to spend $44 million on an aquatic center.
Hi there, Thomas Grandbois, 202 North 8th Avenue, Pasco. Coming from a community where every community has an aquatic facility, I definitely support it, and I support the idea. And there's a lot of comments right now. You can see on the Facebook live stream, there are a lot of comments on there. So I recommend you going out there, and a lot of misinformation or a lot of fear about the increased cost. Luckily, the Tri-City Herald broke this down a little bit. At 0.2%, I believe it is. That equates, if I go downtown Pasco, if I decide to, I spend the overwhelming majority of my money and time in downtown, and I decide to go buy some tacos. On a $10 purchase, that equals 2 cents more. If I decide to go to one of the furniture stores and buy a $5,000 couch, that equals $10 more on the purchase. So just to put it, I want to be on the record for everybody who's listening and everybody in the audience that it's not, man, I just don't think that it's that impactful on, even on a $100,000 purchase, it's $200. And so it's not that when we're talking about taxes, it's not crippling, in my opinion, to see 2 cents more on a meal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And is there any other comments in the community? Looks like there's none, so I do want to say my comments. Appreciate, Mr. Grandbois, appreciate your breakdown of the tax dollars. And coming from an individual that traveled to take my kids to a water park or an aquatic center, whatever you want to call it, somewhere else, Coeur d'Alene, Moses Lake, Hermiston, Milton Freewater. there's families that have to pack up their kids, their families, they plan a day, plan a weekend to take their kids somewhere else for some fun. Two more cents on your taxes, 2/10 of 1% is, as a single mom, is not a great deal for me. Having 2 jobs to take my kids somewhere else to go have fun, where I would rather bring them to my own town. Have them come to an aquatic center close by where I don't have to go pay taxes somewhere else, go make other purchases somewhere else. I would rather invest that here in my hometown. That's my personal opinion. I am in favor of this, and I'm in favor of this for all those individuals that don't have access to a swimming pool in their backyard, don't have access to building a swimming pool, or maybe don't have a neighbor that will allow their kids to go into their swimming pool. So my words are on behalf of myself and individuals like me that do not have access to that swimming pool, or maybe can't travel to take their kids to have fun somewhere else. I am in favor of having this center here, and as Mayor Pro Tem Maloney said, this is something that's already on our ballots. So I'm in favor of passing this resolution in support of getting the support that we need. Thank you.
Mayor, may I?
Go ahead.
I'm glad you said what you did, because just thinking about this realistically from my perspective, Pasco School District, really grateful for their, when I was growing up, it was the Book It program, and you got a free personal pan pizza for reading books, and now they do that for a certain number of hours. Your kid reads, you get a free ticket to Silverwood. So even with 3 kids who've earned their 3 free tickets to Silverwood, which is probably $100 a piece per kid, we go every summer to Silverwood. And this year we decided, why do we just go for one day when the ticket costs that much? So let's stay the night. So that's hotel, gas, adult tickets, food, and our budget for a weekend is about $2,000. And I know that if I were here in Pasco going to my aquatics facility, hopefully, it wouldn't cost us $2,000 to go there. And I will also add to say to that I've got 3 kids at home who are lobbying hard for me to vote a certain way on that ballot. So I'm in support of this and excited, because I think it'll be telling what happens when this ballot comes back.
I can also add, you bring up a really good point. Anyone that comes into Pasco, that purchases anything in Pasco, whether they live here or not, I'm thinking tourism, sports teams. We have a lot of sports teams that come into town. They'll be shopping in Pasco as well. So all of that will contribute to that tax.
Thank you for that. Is there any further comment from any of our council members? With no further comment, is there a motion?
So I would like to make a motion, but I do want to be sensitive to Councilmember Serrano's. If it was just saying that the City of Council has resolved that X, Y, or Z, that is something that a majority of the council is. But I do see some language there in the now therefore be it resolved. This is collectively voices. And I do want to be cognizant of that language. So when I make the following motion, I would like to strike the word collectively there. And Councilmember Serrano would ask if there's any other spot where you feel that this is would be unfairly representing your position if this resolution were to pass.
Yeah, I mean, I think either there or even adding a majority of the city council in that, and I recognize your comment on the whereas, but I would ask that we just simply say that a majority of the city council in both places.
As a follow-up, Mr. Briggs, would we typically in a resolution say majority of council, or would just say council? What is our typical language? I just want to be consistent with that, because this seems inconsistent with that, and I want to make sure that we're,
Well, it is a bit redundant, I guess I would say, because any resolution requires a majority of council to pass. So, but certainly you could put the language in there to say that a majority of council, but any resolution would require that for passage.
right, then,
If I could, I'd add that typically if the council unanimously supports something, it would say unanimously support something.
all right, thank you for that. With that, I would, can I just make the motion in my motion, including the striking language there?
Yes. However you want to modify, and we could come back and sign it accordingly.
Great. I move to approve resolution number 4169 in support of passage of ballot proposition number 1, imposing 0.2% sales and use tax for the purpose of funding an aquatic center to be constructed, operated, and maintained by the Pasco Public Facilities District, striking in the now therefore section the word collectively.
Thank you. There is a motion. Do I get a second?
I'll second that.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Maloney, seconded by Councilman Serrano. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
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 5 ayes, 2 nays. Thank you for that. And we move on to item C. Resolution project acceptance for Road 36 Lift Station Project. Director Worley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Tonight I'm going to turn this over to our construction manager, Kent McHugh.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council
evening.
members. As he said, my name is Kent McHugh, and I am your construction manager. And I'm here to present to you the acceptance of the Road 36 lift station. This was bid in November of 2020 and completed at the beginning of this year. The lowest bidder was Pipe of Washington, otherwise known as POW Contracting. Excuse me. This facility was originally constructed in 2005 as a regional lift station to convey flows from the residential area immediately to the west and to the north to the Pasco wastewater treatment facility. The project was originally identified in 2014 at the comprehensive sewer system plan, and the facility currently houses 2 submersible pumps that were replaced with high capacity pumps. There was a 6-inch force main that needed to be replaced in order to increase capacity to an 8-inch. So this project is located on the corner where Burden meets up with Road 36, and then the force main continues south about 1,300 feet and ties into an existing manhole. The picture on the right was when we were installing the force main down Road 36. These were the base for the two new controllers. We did upgrade these with VFDs and the variable frequency drives in order to be able to increase the capacity and the efficiency. This is the final project, or the final product. This is what we ended up with for final cost. 4 change orders to the tune of $6,700 or $5, less than 1% of the increase from the original award. Questions?
Do we have any questions from our council members?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. With no questions from our council members, can I get a motion, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 4170, accepting work performed by POW Construction under contract for the Road 36 lift station project.
Thank you. There's a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Maloney, seconded by Councilman Campos. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And it passes unanimously. Thank you for that. And with that, we move on to item number 10, any unfinished business, none listed. Item 11, new business, none listed. Item 12, miscellaneous discussion. City manager.
We did have two items, and actually I'm going to turn it over to Director Ratkai to talk about them. One is T-Bex, and he and Deputy City Manager Lincoln have worked very closely with Visit Tri-Cities on this project to get it to Pasco, and he's going to give us a little bit more detail. And then also the annual Easter egg hunt was a big success this year. So.
All right, thank you, Dave. Yeah, T-Bex conference, I believe, as Councilwoman Roach had mentioned earlier this evening, is in town this week. I think the opening ceremonies are technically tomorrow, but there are some activities that were happening this week. It's Travel Bloggers Expo coming to Tri-Cities. They've tried to hold this since 2020, and this is the date where the gathering was allowed and the year and everything. It'll bring travel and lifestyle creators and bloggers from around the world to learn about latest trends, social media strategies, and network with some of the industry's most popular bloggers, influencers. And we are hosting the closing event and a marquee event at Pasco Peanuts Park Thursday evening, April 21st at 7 p.m. We'll have some local performances from Pasco High, the dancers, mariachi, local food vendors, beer and wine. So council does have an invitation to this event, to any event they would want, but certainly to host it here in Pasco, it's going to be a great thing to close it out. And we're really excited to have that there. So I think you can work with our staff here at the city to get those credentials for the evening. And then, yeah, we did hold the drive-through Easter egg hunt. Despite some of the COVID restrictions lifting, we still elected in the Recreation Department to hold the drive-through event, which was actually a great idea this year with the rain and the cold weather. We served over 500 cars and about 800 kids, we estimate. I know that it was not only limited, I heard from Richland residents that they came out and really enjoyed the event as well. So it was a good regional event for the community, and great to get the kids out there, and a good alternative event for bad weather. So
the city newsletter are going to say that recreation staff egged hundreds of cars. That's all we had for this evening.
We could use that tonight, yeah.
That's a good tagline, egged hundreds of cars.
Very serious question, Zach. Did you wear bunny ears?
Unfortunately, I was out of town during the event, but I think I staffed that out.
I want to go on record as being completely let down.
Next year.
We have Councilwoman Roach and then Mayor Pro Tem Maloney.
I just want to pass forward the compliment from the Pasco residents, some children who received books that they were really excited about and pictures. So, yeah, good job. It was really well enjoyed.
Yeah, some comments.
Yeah, great. Just one thing that you might have seen in the news, there was what appeared to be a potential kidnapping here in Pasco just on Sunday, and luckily a local community member saw that what was occurring, called the police. Our police responded, took this very seriously, and arrested somebody who was potentially trying to abduct a woman on the street. So, you know, it's really important for the community to remember that we have our voice. We have to keep our eyes open and protect each other, and definitely I've heard from the police again and again. Just call. If they're busy, they won't come, or they will prioritize what they need to prioritize. That's their job. Your job is to just make sure that they know that something's going on, that something weird's happening, that may save someone's life. So I thought that was really awesome, and I'm really glad that we have, you know, really active community members that are willing to make that call and protect each other. So I just wanted to highlight that. So thank you.
On that note, I would also add and invite the community that Pasco Police Department does have a block watch group. I would invite anyone to be involved within your block watch. They will give you information, they will give you trainings, they will guide you on what to do, how to report, what to watch out for. So again, look up Pasco Police Department, connect with them, and join their monthly block watch meetings on how to protect your neighborhood. And kudos to that individual for watching out and keeping that individual safe. Moving on to item number 13, executive session.
Not this evening.
Thank you. And it is now 8:55 and 20 seconds. With that, this meeting is adjourned.